Right, so we've got a new project, because we're into February now, which is the kind of foliage, landscapey theme, and also looking at greens as a colour. So that's what I thought. So I thought today I'd do a little bit on colour mixing. So I've already talked about colour mixing a couple of weeks ago, but I thought I'd go in a little bit more depth. Hi Mary. And just before I do that though, a couple of things I just wanted to mention. So we've always got quite a bit of a problem with the light in this room. We've got the red glowing winter, as you know, and we've got the blasting sunlight. I've brought some bits of cloth in. I've not really thought this out very far yet, but I'm thinking we could, these here, we could perhaps diffuse the light a little bit. Perhaps just sort of clip these to the curtains, and then so if you want to do that, we can experiment with that in a bit. Because it's a shame to block natural light out, but at the same time when it's too bright. And I haven't even looked what's in the pack, really, to be honest. But I know it's kind of the sort of cheesecloth stuff that I used to use in my studio. This one looks like I've started cutting into it. But there are some that we could probably diffuse the light. So that's that. The other thing is I'm going to start an afternoon class. And that's going to be the 22nd of February. So I'm starting it part way through this month. So I just wanted to give it a couple of weeks' notice, just to, if people were interested and either wanted to swap back to the afternoon, or wanted to, some people used to do a couple of sessions, whatever people want to do, or if people want to swap over, anything like that.
What time is that?
So it'd be 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock. So basically we sort of have a bit of a break between this one and then 1 to 3.
Are we allowed to do both?
Yeah, you can do both. Yeah, you do both if you want. Yeah. Good. I mean, so far, as you know, I kind of closed the waiting list, and then I sort of opened it temporarily as he started. But 1 or 2 people have kind of left. You know, we used to have a student, Anne, who came for a little while, but then she couldn't make it anymore. 1 or 2 people gone, so. But we have got a comfortable number. I don't particularly want to make it any bigger than we are. And I've got the same thing with my Rayleigh classes. Both my Rayleigh classes are full now. So I thought, well, an afternoon class, even if it starts off small, I can gradually kind of build that. So yeah, so I'm starting in 2 weeks. I've got 4, possibly 5 new students who've been on the waiting list going to start. So I'm kind of gearing towards that one. And then, and we've got a few others. That's good. So that's great. Good. So that's the announcements. Brought a couple of pictures that are on this kind of landscape theme. This one's pretty much finished. So I started this I did most of that in London, and then it wasn't quite there, so I worked up on photos, and I'm not quite sure if the foreground is right. So I may take that back and have another look if there's a sunny day in London sometime. So that was that one. But I was quite pleased with the way that was going. This one is finished. This one started as a demo for an art club, and I like the way that was going. And
I remember you demoing that one.
yeah. Oh yeah, did I do it for the same thing? Oh, I did, didn't I? Yeah, that's right, I did, didn't I? So yeah, I mean, actually, most of it is as it was. I've not really done too much other than add a little bit of the detail that I didn't manage to get in there. So that was that one. I think that was Canterbury. That was fun. But when it comes to trees, I mean, obviously it's so different the way you can paint them, and it rather depends on the lighting. This one, and well, both of these actually, I really quite enjoy this kind of backlit trees where you've got the sense of the light shining through the leaves. So that's one sort of quality that particularly appeals to me. And there's a little bit of transparent paint there, so there's a little bit of a glow to that. I quite like that glowing effect. This other one is another demo that I think I've shown you before, but I didn't finish. But I thought this is a different kind of lighting on the trees in the background, and I've treated them fairly, just a suggestion really. I've not gone into too much detail, but hopefully the balance of lights and darks, helps to create that sense of form. I've deliberately sort of softened edges. So another week I'll talk a little bit about brushwork. What I was thinking was it might be quite nice to just do a few studies, like maybe just do a couple of blank backgrounds or blue backgrounds, and then just do some tree studies and experiment with textures and colour mixing and things like that. So rather than necessarily go straight into a whole landscape, work up to a few studies. So that's one idea.
The reflections are really
Yeah? Yeah. Thanks.
You should paint Augusta, you know where the golf tournament is in America. Augusta's got a bridge like that, and when you see it on TV, the reflection is just like that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And they have azaleas and all sorts there.
I think this was, I took this from a photo when I was in Ludlow. So this is Ludlow, bridge in Ludlow. Yeah. But it's the sort of thing I quite like to do. It was a demo, so it's all done in under 2 hours, so it's a very quick kind of sketchy one. Yeah, just sort of, what I was going to say about that is the light on this one is very much against the trees, so you get in sort of, I've added a little bit of white to these because it's kind of reflecting off the leaves, whereas these other ones I try and keep it a little bit more transparent. So
The light's behind the tree.
it's more kind of behind me, shining on the trees,
Oh,
if you sort of mean, so it's kind of coming in this way, I think, whereas on these ones, the light is sort of behind the tree, so it's almost like showing through. So that's gives a different quality. So I was thinking about green. So what I was suggesting before is mixed greens from the different yellows, different blues. And I was saying that with when you're starting out painting, it's good to have, say, like a lemon yellow and a cadmium yellow, and a cerulean blue and an ultramarine blue. And I just thought I'd go into a little bit of what I actually use myself. That's what, for years and years, when I first started teaching, I just stuck to that palette. But then I gradually started exploring again, trying different things out. And the different colours do have their own qualities. One of the ones I quite like is a yellow. I've got two versions of this. This is the student quality one. And it'd be better if I had a whiteboard, but I haven't got one. I couldn't find it. This is Indian yellow.
Oh.
I quite like Indian yellow. And this is the artist quality one, which is a bit brighter, really. And I quite like, and it's a very transparent yellow, but it's a nice one for getting those kind of glowing yellows. And then you could then put a little bit of, sorry, I haven't got all the colours out here. Tiny bit of blue in with that. I find that some colours I quite like in the artist qualities. So, if it's a colour I'm not going to use tons of, I don't mind buying a 20 quid tube and it will last me a year or so. But some of the ones that I use very quickly, like whites, I just get the student quality because they seem good enough. But there's definitely a difference in them, to use. So, I think I bought the cheaper one just to do the demos with, just so that I had big quantities to use if I wanted to. But that's one colour I quite like. So instead of a cadmium yellow, I'd use that because it's a bit more transparent, and you could have that kind of. If I put some, you can sort of. I don't know. You need to put it over something really, but you'll get more of a glow with it. So that's what. So. Another colour I use quite a lot of is this one, the Raw Sienna, which I rather like. And sometimes I don't really want a really bright yellow, but I should be able to make some sort of kind of earthy green with that. Because I find that sometimes the greens I see in some people's paintings for me are far too bright. It's absolutely fine if you want to go for that souped up, saturated palette, and that's part of your conscious decisions and your conscious choices. But what I find is sometimes people just reach for the green tube rather than kind of thinking it out. So I think a lot of greens are quite earthy greens. Green is one of those colours that, it is the colour that our eyes are most sensitive to. And apparently, I know my wife went to a thing in the library, in the planetarium, and they have like the laser pointers, and it's always a red one, because apparently the green ones are just far too bright. They just come out too bright. And our eyes are very attuned to greens, and it's probably because we grew up in green landscapes, and we needed to differentiate different greens. So.
What was the green light, sorry, in the planetarium?
Sorry?
What was the green light?
Like the laser pointers, they always tend to be red. If you're pointing.
Oh,
laser,
right.
yeah.
Like
And apparently the greens just appear too bright. Now I've never seen this, so I can't sort of validate it. This is something my wife told me. But I had heard that we're very, very sensitive to, we're much more, our eyes are more sensitive to green. Yeah, maybe, but in a way, it's, if we grew up in a natural environment with lots of green, maybe we don't, we're sort of used to picking out colours. But I know it's a colour that artists struggle with, because it's sometimes, you can go for green, sometimes it can be too overpowering and look a little bit too, if you want to go for a natural looking green, it can look a little bit too over the top. So for that reason, I pretty much always do mix the greens. I have got some greens here, but at different times I've experimented, but more lately I just found I've kind of got everything I need with just mixing colours. So as I say, that is, if I wanted a kind of earthy green, that would be quite nice. Or I could do a mixture of the two. If I wanted like a really dark, I've got to get another brush out. If I wanted a really dark green, quite often, I haven't really got a burnt umber with me, but that's what I was reaching for. Oh, this one. Actually, I used the raw sienna, not the raw umber. No one. You got burnt umber? Is it oil?
Oh,
No, it's acrylic.
sorry.
Not sorry.
I've got a burnt umber, but it's acrylic.
Don't worry. You think I know something? Well, I tell you what that will do. That's a
Oh, wait, I've got.
transparent.
I've got.
Have you, that's a bit burnt.
I need to get some.
Right, so to mix it like a dark green, something like a burnt umber, and maybe a little bit of dark blue, like this will come out almost black. That gives a really dark colour. Say if you've got like the shadows, foliage and shadows, that could be, really good for that sort of really deep foliage colour. We can lighten that up a little bit. I'll put a bit of yellow with it and see how that looks. Or a bit of brown. Something like that. And then other greens. So greens, that's the little bit of mixing. And I remember seeing somebody at South End Art Club doing that one, so I'll show you that one. I would never have thought of like brown and sort of something like Prussian blue or phthalo blue for a really deep green, but it does work quite nicely. The out the tube greens, some of them are, I think, just single pigment. So I grew up with like Viridian green, which is a very bluey green. I haven't got Viridian to hand, but this is phthalo green, which is very similar, perhaps a little bit more powerful. So it's a lovely green, but it's very, very strong, and it's very bluey. So if you wanted to use that with a landscape, you probably are going to have to add a bit of other colours, like maybe some brown in with it. So if it's in the shadows, that would make quite a nice green for the shadows if you added a bit of blue in there. Oh, sorry, a bit of brown in there.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Would that look much different colour if it was on a white board?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it probably would. Yeah. Yeah. If I got my whiteboard right in time, yeah, it would do.
Do you
I'm
want
not
this?
criticising you for it.
No, I don't want to wreck your board.
Well, don't, you can paint over it.
No, it seems to show. I've got some in the car, but I just want to use these. Well, so the other thing is mix. Some greens, you get some greens, things like sap green, which can be quite a nice colour. So this one is, I think it's sap green. Yeah. So again, that's a really transparent green. So like where phthalo green is usually like a single pigment in the tube of paint. Some of the colours you get in tubes of paint vary quite a lot, and there are multiple pigments, and then the manufacturer's mixed up in green. So I think this is the Winter and Newton sap green, which I always quite like. And I can mix something similar with the Indian yellow, because it's not transparent. It's actually quite a transparent green. So if you wanted a little bit of a transparent glow, like these sort of greens, that would be quite a nice one for that. And you can obviously add other colours to it, mix it. But they do vary quite a bit. So that's that's how it looks like from Winston & Newton. The Bob Ross version, I think this is, that somebody gave me, looks a lot more like that. So they've obviously got something very different in that. So it will be a different colours gone into the tube. So it's just something to be aware of when you're buying colours. They all can be useful, but sometimes you'll find that you like this one, manufacturer's version, better than another one. They're all good to use and all good to experiment with, really. The other thing is that I haven't mentioned is like these in this one. So this one was sort of adding. Quite often, I will with a green, I'll just use colours as much as I can, and won't use white unless I need to. So, you know, if it's a light green, I'll probably just mix yellows and blues. But if you've got light reflecting off of surfaces, like the shrubs out there or the ivy out there, I need to put a bit of white in with that just to give that effect. And you'll get something a bit like that. Put it into there, you'll get kind of, that'll give you the impression of light sort of bouncing off the surface. And the other thing just to remind you is like if you want to desaturate the green, add the colour opposite the colouring. So looking at reds, sort of desaturate it. So if I put a little bit of red in with that, I get a kind of greyish green. That might be too much red. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more blue, something like that. I'm thinking sort of like those kind of Mediterranean olivey greens, things like that. So it'd be a little bit of red in there.
Never think of putting red with tomato.
You will now.
No,
Yeah. Is that okay?
yeah.
So hopefully a little bit more in depth of colour. Sorry, it's a little bit random though.